I was standing in my apartment, halfway through wrapping the last Christmas gift, when my phone lit up with a message that stopped everything. If you're not going to babysit 4 kids, then don't even come. No hesitation. No softness. Just the kind of dismissal you feel in your bones. Seconds later, my parents chimed in, agreeing like it was the most natural thing in the world. I stared at that screen and realized I wasn't family to them. I was labor. But the part no one saw coming was what I did next. Before I tell you the rest, comment where you're listening from. My name is Emily. For most of my life, I thought being the capable one in the family was something to be proud of. I live in Denver now, in a small apartment with a view of the city lights. The kind of place you earn piece by piece through long nights, quiet mornings, and a job that never stops demanding something from you. I work in software, which means I fix things for a living. Broken code, failed deployments, emergencies that wake you before dawn. Maybe that's why my family assumed I could fix everything else too, including whatever crisis they created that week. Growing up, I learned early that Heather was the center of gravity in our house. She was the eldest, with the loud laugh and the endless needs, rides, money, favors. When she had her first baby, our parents treated her exhaustion like a holy burden everyone else should help carry. By the time she had 4, it wasn't a request anymore. It was tradition. And every tradition apparently required my participation. Even back then, I could feel the difference. If Heather forgot something, Mom would step in. If I forgot something, Mom would sigh and say, "You're usually more responsible than this." If Heather needed help, Dad rearranged his schedule. If I needed help, Dad reminded me that I was grown and independent. There was no anger in any of it, just a quiet expectation that I would hold the edges of the family together so Heather never had to. Maybe that's why the Christmas trip mattered to me more than I admitted. I'd spent months planning, 8 flights, a lakeside cabin for the entire week, and a few small surprises. I thought maybe, just maybe, this year could feel different. Something warm, something shared, something that didn't revolve around what I could provide. The cabin had a view of the frozen lake, long wooden decks, and a huge stone fireplace. It was the kind of place families go to make memories instead of arguments. I imagined the kids running around in matching pajamas. My parents relaxing for once, Heather laughing because she actually felt grateful. I imagined myself sitting on the couch, cocoa in hand, feeling like part of something instead of the scaffolding holding it all up. But that version of Christmas only existed in my head. Reality has a way of breaking through. The week before the trip, I drove to Heather's house to drop off a few things for the kids: gloves, scarves, small toys to keep them entertained on the flight. When I stepped into the living room, it looked like every December of my childhood. Toys everywhere. The TV loud, my parents' coats on the couch. Mom greeted me with a distracted smile. Heather barely looked up. Dad asked me to grab something from the kitchen as if I'd always worked there. I should have noticed it then. The way no one asked how I'd been. The way no one mentioned the trip or thanked me. The room already felt tilted in their favor. But I didn't understand what was coming until the night. The group chat lit up and everything I'd planned unraveled in a single sentence. It was a Tuesday night. Denver felt quieter than usual. I just sat down after work, still wearing the dark sweater I'd thrown on that morning. When my phone buzzed with the family group chat, I expected something simple. Maybe Mom asking what snacks the kids would want, or Heather sending another reminder about flight times. Instead, I opened the chat and froze. "If you're not going to babysit 4 kids, then don't even come." Heather didn't add a smiley face. She didn't soften it. Just a single line dropped into the silence of my apartment like a stone hitting water. Clean, heavy, unmistakable. I reread it, waiting for a punchline. A follow-up. "I'm stressed, I didn't mean it like that." But Mom replied within seconds. "Your sister's right. You're the only one who's free." Then Dad, as if he'd been standing by, reinforced it. 3 messages. Less than 30 seconds apart. The same old rhythm, the same alliance I'd grown up under. The worst part wasn't the words. It was how natural they seemed to them, how automatic, like they'd already decided I wasn't a guest on this trip. I was the help. My thumb hovered over the screen. Heat rose in my chest, not just anger, but recognition. This wasn't new. This was every birthday they skipped because Heather needed something. Every weekend I spent watching her kids while she took a break. Every holiday where I bought groceries, cooked meals, cleaned up, and still felt like an afterthought. I typed and deleted a message. Then typed again. So, just so I understand, if I don't babysit, I'm not allowed to come to Christmas? The little typing bubble flickered. Then Heather answered, correct. We don't need someone who just eats and leaves. My hands went cold. Not shaking cold. Like something inside me finally shut off. A door clicked closed. For a moment, I thought about all the things I could say. Remind them who booked the cabin, who bought the flights, who carried this trip from idea to reality while they barely remembered the dates. But that wasn't the point anymore. This wasn't about the trip. It never had been. It was about the role they'd carved out for me years ago, and expected me to keep playing without question. The apartment was so quiet I could hear the heater kick on. Outside, the streetlights glowed against the snow. In that stillness, something inside me steadied. Calm, sharp, undeniable. I put my phone down for 10 full minutes. Let the anger settle. Let the clarity rise. When I picked it back up, I didn't argue. I made a decision. I scrolled through the bookings. 8 plane tickets, the lakeside cabin with its wooden deck and stone fireplace, the prepaid activities the kids would love. I had planned an entire week down to the smallest detail. They had never seen that. They had never seen me dot my fingers, barely hesitated as I typed. Cool. Then my $50,000 isn't showing up to Christmas either. I hit send. The message sat there, blue, unblinking. A small sentence, steady and calm, like a door closing with a soft click. I could imagine the moment they read it. Confusion first, then the slow dawning of what that number meant. $50,000, flights, cabin, events, every part of the trip they had taken for granted. The group chat went silent. Heather, the one who filled conversations with demands, didn't type. Mom didn't rush to soften anything. Dad didn't offer one of his patronizing reminders about family duty. Just silence, thick enough to feel through a screen. I stood up, walked to the window, and looked out at the street below. Snow layered the rooftops in clean lines. Cars moved slowly, headlights glowing. Someone down the block hung lights, the ladder creaking against the cold. It felt strange, almost peaceful, to realize I wasn't obligated to fix this moment. I didn't need to soothe them or justify myself. I didn't need to explain what $50,000 meant to me or what I intended to do next. I sat back down, opened the booking app, and hovered my finger over the cancel button. A week earlier, I would have hesitated, worried about disappointing everyone. Tonight, the air felt clear. They told me not to come, so I made sure I wouldn't. I pressed cancel. The confirmations arrived one by one. Quiet dings echoing through my apartment like tiny verdicts. First the flights, then the cabin, then the prepaid activities. The money routed back to my account. The entire trip collapsed as easily as it had been built. I didn't send the screenshots immediately. I let them sit in a folder on my phone while I washed a few dishes, lit a candle, and let the heater run. The silence in the group chat hadn't broken, and somehow that silence was its own confession. They understood the weight of my message. They just weren't sure how to respond now that I wasn't bending. An ally. Heather typed. What do you mean your $50,000? What are you talking about? No humility. Just shocked confusion. She had assumed the trip was effortless for me, like I pulled it from thin air. She had never considered that I worked for it, planned it, paid for it. That I had given them something precious. I uploaded the first screenshot. 8 flight cancellations, full refund. Heather read it within seconds. Emily, what is this? The caps lock felt like a scream. Mom appeared next. You didn't pay for everyone's tickets. Stop causing drama. I added the second screenshot, the lakeside cabin cancellation. The amount in bold. The typing bubble flickered and vanished. Mom didn't reply. Dad did. Why would you do that? We were all counting on this trip. It was almost funny. They hadn't even thanked me for planning it. I sent the last screenshot. Canceled events, Refunds processed. Then I typed 2 words that felt colder than the snow outside. I canceled. The silence that followed wasn't stunned or confused. It was panicked. Ground shifted. People scrambled. Heather was first. You can't be serious. The kids were looking forward to this. You ruined their Christmas. I leaned back and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Not guilt. Clarity. I didn't ruin Christmas, I wrote. You told me I wasn't welcome unless I babysat. I simply removed what wasn't welcome. Mom, you're being petty. Babysitting is not a big deal. You re-single. You have time. Why would you take away Christmas from your own family? Those words were familiar. Versions of them had echoed my whole life. You have more time. Your needs come second. You can handle it. Except this time, something inside me pushed back. I'm not the family's free childcare, I replied. I'm your daughter, and you made it clear that doesn't matter to you unless I'm useful. Dad, let's all calm down. We can still fix this. Rebook everything and stop being dramatic. Stop being dramatic. That line was a match dropped into gasoline. For years, any feeling I had, any boundary met with that same dismissal. So I wrote, fix it yourselves. 3 dots appeared. Heather typing. Mom typing. Dad typing. But none of the messages came through. A family trying to coordinate their outrage and failing. Then Heather sent a wall of text. We can't rebook anything. Prices doubled overnight. The cabin is gone. The flights are gone. Why would you do this to us? There it was. The truth they circled around. I had been valuable because I made their lives easier. I paid for things they couldn't afford. I lifted weights they couldn't carry. When I withdrew, the whole structure collapsed. But you told me not to come, I answered. So I listened. Mom tried a different angle. This is why we don't tell you things. You're too emotional. You act without thinking. I stared at that message not because it hurt, but because it was so deeply inaccurate. Everything I'd done had been a long time coming, and they didn't recognize any of it. I thought about every time I helped, every time I said yes, every time I rearranged my life because they needed something. And all it took to erase that, one night and one message telling me I'm only welcome if I'm useful. That's not family. Heather sent one last message, shorter this time. So what now? You're just not coming home. You're spending Christmas alone. No, I wrote. I'm spending Christmas with people who see me as a person, not a resource. That was the end of it. No one replied. The typing bubbles never returned. I set my phone face down, walked into the bedroom, and zipped up the suitcase I'd packed. Then I folded the clothes back into my drawers, one by one, until the suitcase lay empty. The strange thing wasn't the sadness. It was the relief, like taking off a coat I didn't realize had grown heavy. The next morning, I blocked the group chat notifications. Then I drove across Denver to a friend's place where warmth spilled from the windows. Someone handed me a mug before I even sat down. Their living room smelled like pine and fresh cookies. No demands, no conditions. Just welcome. For the first time in a long time, Christmas felt like mine. Christmas morning in Denver was quieter than any holiday I could remember. No buzzing phone, no last-minute demands, no list of tasks disguised as family tradition. Instead, we cooked, played board games, and walked through cold air with our coats zipped to our chins. No one asked me to fix anything. No one told me what I owed them. Every conversation felt light, like breathing without weight on my ribs. At one point, my friend handed me a small gift. Nothing expensive, just thoughtful. A little notebook with a soft cover. Inside, she'd written, "For the life you get to choose." Meanwhile, my family's chaos unfolded without me. A cousin texted privately to say last-minute flights were triple the original price and sold out within hours. The cabin was gone. The kids were disappointed. The adults irritated. And every plan they assumed would be waiting for them had evaporated. Some relatives whispered that it wasn't fair to blame me. Others said it was long overdue. But I didn't gloat. The truth was simpler. Peace doesn't always look like winning. Sometimes it looks like walking away before you burn. By the time the lights dimmed that night, I knew something had shifted permanently. I hadn't just canceled a trip. I had canceled a role I never wanted. A month later, Heather finally texted. No attitude this time. No demands. Just, if you want to come next Christmas, you won't have to babysit. I'm sorry. I read it. Let the screen dim and set the phone aside. Some doors don't need slamming. They just stay closed once you step through. If any part of my story feels familiar, tell me where you're listening from. Share what you would have done. And subscribe so you don't miss the next one.